I'd like to finish the Giants game, and then I'd like to go on to my prognostications for the outcome of the elections tonight.
Okay, you
I
can do
think
that.
we'll end after the Giants game.
Play ball?
I'm sure. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors. Everybody seems pretty happy because the Giants won. And if you're not, the door is there. I'd like you to please stand if you can and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We had a closed session last week pursuant to Government Code 54956.9C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, one case, resulting in nothing to report. I'd like to move to the consent agenda. Does a staff member, board, or public have an item they'd like to pull?
Item 3, Madam Chair.
5 through 8, please.
5 through 8, okay. Anyone else?
You want to go home early sick?
Okay,
I would like to pull item 10.
okay. Anyone else? I'd like to have a motion.
Move the balance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Item number 3, Supervisor Walensky.
Yes, our board packet outlines the appointment of new council members for the Prevent Child Abuse Council, Calaveras, and one of the appointments, Mr. Jimenez, is to fill out a vacancy that expires in 12/31/10, which would only be 2 months of service. He's willing to serve the coming year, 2011, so I would propose we amend this to be 12/31/11 for Mr. Jimenez, and that would, as amended, I would propose we adopt the
May I have a
minute order.
second?
I'd like to, just on the discussion on that, would there be any traction for the idea of just going ahead and having it go to 12/31/12? That makes all of these people come up on the same date.
They all come up on the 11th.
The 11th, 12/31/11.
Well, but it appears
You're
to
saying
be
to stagger. You're proposing to stagger. I don't know what the bylaws of the organization call for on this. Is it that all should expire at the same time, or do you stagger?
They are staggered. We know they're staggered. They're 2-year terms, so you know, you continue those to another 2 years.
Yeah, he would have to go 2 years to keep it staggered.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you if you might come forward. What we have before us is Mr. Jimenez proposed for 12/31/10. That would go to 12/31/12. Is that correct?
Correct.
For Amy Hasselwonder, we have 12/31/11. Does that stay at 11, or does it go to 12?
That's also, it says that that's a term that's expiring.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, then we would want to continue that one as well.
So that would be 12. And Kelly
Yeah.
Figueroa as the alternate council member, also to 12?
Yes.
All right. Then I propose that we pass the minute order as amended to 12/31/12 for all three.
Supervisor.
That doesn't, are you sure of that? Because this says the first one was a remaining term from 12/31/10. Okay, so at the end of 10, 2 years would be till 12. The other two says a remaining time to 12/31/11.
Right.
So at the end of 11, it would go to 13.
So I'm sorry. So we would want, I'm sorry, I don't have the paper in front of me.
Okay.
So we would want them to just do a 2-year term beyond the expiration date that we have on there. Is that make sense?
No.
But the other two have a
The
full
one-
year remaining.
Yeah, my suggestion would be that the others would expire at the end of 11.
And then we can
And this
reappoint.
one would go to 12, as I had initially proposed.
Okay,
And that keeps your staggering, and
you're right.
you'll be back in a
You're right.
year for
Thank
the
you.
other two. All right, let me restate for the third time.
Sorry about that, Steve.
No, you're correct in your observation. So, under the revised minute order, Council Member Jimenez would serve a term to 12/31/12. Alternate Council Member Hasselwander would serve till 12/31/11, and alternate Council Member Kelly Figueroa would serve to 12/31/11.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question for the supervisors. So we're here for public comments for a
Okay.
report for you.
We'll
Should I
wait till
sit
we
down?
finish. Yes,
Thanks.
thank you. Mr. Clapp, you had items that you had pulled?
Yes, I pulled 5 through 8, and
Yes.
the question would be mainly, were those ever, because I've never seen on a consent item like this, they've always been for like public comment or something on agendized items.
What I was planning on doing, but you had pulled them to see if there were any members that were of the public who were involved in these that wanted to discuss their particular case. No one did, so is there something?
I was just want to know if the people have been contacted,
Yes.
if these are agreeable with the
No,
people
of
that's
course
losing the
not.
property or something like that. Because the only concern I have is it's just being rushed through like this. They're being denied due process and stuff in the process.
That they, I'll let Mr. Barr express it, but there's a whole process
I understand.
that goes through on
I understand.
these.
That's pretty, I just was curious because I've been
That's
at
fine.
some before where they'd be going through and you can hear the different aspects, what was going on. And I know, I'm not against it because there's a lot of places I like to get condemned to around my house, but saying that, putting that aside, I
That's
just was
fine.
curious to,
If they
it just-
receive their due process.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Barr, would you just please like to explain that?
Yes, absolutely. These people, before a citation is issued, oftentimes they're contacted 4 or 5 times. Sometimes they just try to ignore us, and other times they'll even get back in contact with us, but then they just don't follow up and just don't eliminate the violations.
Todd, and also part of the process remains they'll get a notice of this action, and they can still correct it and avoid the fines if they come into compliance. So this is not the full end of it, but it does tend to catch people who have been ignoring the notices. It definitely catches their attention, and usually they come into compliance.
When a citation is issued, they actually, on that citation, it has specific instructions on the backside of how to appeal that, so that they could actually start with a hearing from the hearing board and take it on to the Superior Court if they wanted to. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barr. Are there any questions, further questions from the public or the board? May I have a motion on items 5, 6, 7, and 8?
So moved, Madam Chair.
The rest being in my district, I'll second. And
Okay,
that covers, and that's a wrap.
and that's a wrap. Thank you. Did I say all in
No,
favor?
you didn't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. Now
We
it's a
need
wrap.
10. No, Russ,
Okay,
10.
I'd like to move to public
No,
comment.
Russ pulled item 10.
Oh, that's right, thank you.
Madam Chair, the reason that I pulled this item is that I'd like to have Howard Stolman expand on this a little bit. We often talk about the things that we can do in this county to build our economy and bring jobs to the county, and this kind of strikes me as one of those times when we should talk about what we're doing and what the potentials are. So thank you, Howard.
As Howard Stolman, your Chief Information Officer, point of clarification as to what this proposal is doing or in general?
No, this proposal specifically.
So this proposal came to us from a representative of the California Emerging Technology Fund. That fund was created several years ago by law when SBC and PAC-Bell and MCI merged, essentially. The point of that organization is they need to work to increase broadband in California. They're also responsible for several grants. In fact, the CBIN Scenic project that we're actually on site today with working on, they received a complimentary grant from CETF for the education part of their program. So the CTEF is out in California trying to enhance broadband in its target communities. The target communities are the underserved and unserved rural areas, which obviously applies to us, and then some of the disadvantaged communities in some of the larger areas, say some of the areas in LA and other metropolitan areas, but they're still underserved or disadvantaged, so they've targeted those communities as well. So their outreach is to increase broadband, but also to get people familiar with broadband, so that they're going to be at county fairs, state fairs, et cetera, so that they can demonstrate to people the advantages of broadband. I think they've found, and research is supporting, that as you move into rural areas, there's somewhat of an apprehension to get connected and to fully utilize broadband. So this program of theirs is an outreach program. It's designed to educate the public on the advantages of broadband and help rural areas like ours apply for federal funding that will increase our broadband capabilities.
Thank you very much for that explanation, and with that, I would like to move for approval of this item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. I'd like to move to public comments. If anyone has an item not on the agenda and under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. 5 minutes per person.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Frigero. I'm representing the Resource Connection, and I just want to thank the board for approving my appointment as an alternate to the Prevent Child Abuse Council. I'm really excited about collaborating with this group. I think they've been doing some really good work. I think the Resource Connection is a really good fit for this council, and we can bring a different perspective, and I think there's really good, exciting things coming for the year ahead. And now Robin has something she wants to say.
Good morning. I'm Robin Davis, and I'm the program coordinator for First Five Calaveras and the Prevent Child Abuse Council. And I'm happy to have Kelly here, and we're representing the council to give you our annual report this year. And I just want to give you a little overview. Our work reflects a commitment to building a community that is caring and responsive, to building the capacity of our partners, and to providing parents with the resources that they need and the education to give every child a healthy, nurturing, and safe home. This year, the business community and volunteers became much more involved in our mission. We were here in April, and we talked about Child Abuse Prevention Month. As I am out in the community, I go into Angels Market, and there's a blue ribbon decal on the window that says "Keep Kids Safe," and I'm reminded that that's the intention of our community. When we were last year, you designated 3 safe surrender sites in the county, and this year we have the high schools and law enforcement officers and the hospital who are helping us to educate the community about the Safely Surrendered Baby Law, which aims to prevent infant abandonment and death. We've also partnered with the Resource Connection and with CalWorks to provide community education on the detection and the prevention of specific types of abuses, on reporting child abuse. Our partners, First Five Calaveras, we continue to work with them to bring the Strengthening Families parent workshops. And this year, we've had almost 500 people attend those workshops. I've had a parent say that she's learning to deal with, to be less reactive and more calm, firm, and consistent with her children. So we've had a lot of positive feedback. We're really listening to what parents have to say, what they want. Statistically, this year we received 912 reports to Children's Services, and 120 of those were substantiated. Of those substantiated reports, nearly or over half of those children were victims of neglect. That's often compounded by substance abuse, particularly methamphetamine. We find that the majority of those reports are coming from educators and from law enforcement officers. So we work closely with referring people to programs that provide intervention. Kelly's program provides intervention. A lot of our partners and our new council members. But the council, it really works on prevention and providing all families with the resources to be resilient in a time when if a crisis happens in their family, that's when a child can become injured or become hurt. And the last thing that the council is kind of oversees is we have developed a group of volunteers, the Citizen Review Panel, and we're conducting an assessment this year, actually over the next 2 years with a state grant, to review the independent living program. And this county program serves over 100 youth who will be aging out of foster care and the juvenile justice system, and between the ages of 18 and 21. So these youth are really are the hardest, have some of the hardest barriers to face in terms of living independently. They've had adverse childhood experiences. They've often had interrupted education and home life, and maybe really they can't rely on, or feel they can't rely on adults. And so what the panel did was to schedule a day that was a ropes and a team building course. And even though everyone got up at dawn that day, the youth, these young adults, basically said that it was exciting, it was challenging, and it was empowering. And they used that word, empowering. So it was very good. And what it did really was build trust with the panel members so that we could have focus groups. We then had 27 of those youth that are in the independent living program provide much of what shapes the recommendations that we made in a report this month to Children's Services. And the focus of those recommendations is on agency collaboration, is giving the youth a voice and a role in the program, and connecting the youth to supportive adults, which is one thing that they're really missing. And in January, the panel will hear from Children's Services what the response is.
Thank you, Paula.
Is that 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Just the last thing is really we would like to thank the generosity of all the donors to the Children's Trust Fund, which helps support our work. And thank you very much. We've got reports for you and anyone here. So.
Could I get the 3 locations of the safe drop-offs?
The hospital is a 24-hour site for the location, and then 2 24/7 fire stations. So the one that's on one in Arnold, and one that's on Mountain Ranch. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the road. It's between Railroad Flat and Mountain Ranch.
Is that Central? Central Fire?
Central Calaveras. Thank you. Yep.
Hello, Madam Chairperson. My name is Fabian Anieri. I live in Copperopolis.
I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
Fabian.
Oh, thank you.
And concerning number 5, 6, and 7, I'm glad to and encouraged that the board is taking action, and I'm sure the neighbors are excited that these properties will be cleaned up. But I'm wondering, with code compliance having a file caseload hovering around 300 or more, why only 4? Why are they only taking action, or why is the board only taking action against 4? And I'm not sure why the whole process has to be dragged out for 2 years.
Some of them drag out for 7 years.
I understand, but
I will have Mr. Todd Barr give you a call. Most of them are settled outside of the boardroom, an agreement between code enforcement and the property owner.
But why does it take 7 years? or 6 years.
I
or
will
5.
have Mr. Barr tell you. We could go on
I'm
and
sure.
on that.
But it seems as if that,
If you could give your phone number to Carol, I'll have him explain because
I
we'll
understand.
have
I'm not asking for an explanation. I'm just, I guess,
frustrated as to
expressing
why.
my frustration as to why, if there's 300 files, there aren't 4 of these on your docket every meeting.
Because most of them are settled outside the boardroom,
Thank you.
between code enforcement and the property owner.
Thank you for your time.
Would you like me to have Mr. Barr give you a call? And give you?
Yes, I would, but I'll go visit him in his office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Terry Baker from Railroad Flat, and today my topic is going to be the agricultural dispute resolution, the board. And on March 21st of this year, Bob Garamendi got a hold of us and asked us if we would be a part of this, and we accepted. That was in March, and now it's November, and we have gone this far. This whole process is supposed to take 30 days, from the top up here to the bottom down here, 30 days. Since March, Bob Garamendi came out and did a fact-finding, and that's it. We've been writing letters asking if we're going to move forward on this, and we have never even got a response. So I went to the agricultural dispute meeting Friday, and they want us to start over from up here again. All the way, they want us to go up here, and we're all the way down one step from the bottom. And we're just incredulous on what they're doing to us through the ADRC committee. Anyway, I'd like to read this. This is regarding the reclarification and the re-explanation of the Baker Ranch consent to the Ag Dispute Committee, Roberta Carolyn Redmond's dispute dated October 10th, 2007, referred by the Ag Department in March 2010. Dear County and Board of Supervisors, at the October 19th, 2010 Supervisors meeting, we submitted our letter dated October 19th, 2010, which clearly informed that we were submitting our formal consent per Ag Dispute Committee Rule 6, along with the required Ag Dispute Information Form. At the subsequent Ag Dispute Committee meeting on Friday, October 29th, there was some confusion, and Terry Baker, who was present, was errantly directed to withdraw his submission form and redo the form as a complaint with him as the complaining reporting party, and then resubmit the form. Immediately after the meeting adjourned, Mr. Baker returned and informed Mrs. Mutz and Mrs. Kuntz that he simply wished to go directly forward with the form as is, with he and his wife Sandra as the complained about reporting party, and Roberta Redmond's dispute, which was submitted on October 10th, 2007, 3 years ago. Mr. Baker informed Chairman Mutz that he did not desire to make any complaints to her committee and never has. If you would simply check the records in this matter, you will discover that Roberta Redmond's October 2007 dispute was referred to the Ag Dispute Committee in March of 2009. See the attachment. It's right here. We submitted a form written request dated April 1st, 2009, requesting a written case status report and referral explanation, and this is our letter for that. We received no specific response. Instead, Chairman Mutz sent the Bakers and the Vieira Penningtons a letter dated April 30th from the County Environmental Management Agency, which states, records indicate that the ADRC dispute information form has not been submitted. It is necessary to submit this form before the committee can help resolve this dispute. See attachment, and here it is right here. Please complete the enclosed form and submit it to the Department of Agriculture. This is what we did. We hope this clears up your confusion, and we look forward to the next committee meeting. We request that we be given written and telephone notice of all future meetings, as the posted 72-hour 3-day notice requirement for posting is insufficient under these circumstances. Thanks again, and we will attend the next meeting to observe the committee's procedures on considering whether to use mediation or a fair hearing procedure as outlined in Appendix A.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
You're very welcome. Can I finish my last line?
God, you're pushing.
To resolve the issue in dispute, we consent to mediation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Does anyone else have an item they'd like to bring before the board under our jurisdiction?
Yes, good morning. Bonnie Newman from Devil Springs. I had the honor of attending the SECA conference 2 weeks ago. California In-Home Supportive Service Consumer Alliance. Last week we heard from the the chairperson of the IHSS Advisory Board. They attended also. There was 6 representatives from Calaveras County, which is a pretty good turnout. You know, I go to union meetings and I go to IHSS advisory boards, and these people are all involved in this program and these issues, but they don't really have the heart that the SECA people do. The SECA people are mainly disabled and seniors who have joined together statewide to bring awareness to the problems and the issues that they're faced with every day. So when I go to these conferences, their word is like the gospel. What these people say is the people that we're trying to help and who are representing the program. One of the main focuses of this conference was that SECA's really concerned that welfare departments don't absorb the IHSS advisory boards and the public authorities. And I'm afraid that might be the way that our county is moving, having the welfare department take over some of the responsibilities. They're very wary of that. They, in fact, advocate more separation from these, from the welfare departments. And that was a big focus of several workshops. And during one general session where people are allowed to speak how they feel, and we had a presentation by public authorities, and one gentleman in a power chair, and I could not see him. I do not know who he was because he was behind the big sign that they put up advertising everything. I kept trying to look. I could see he was in a power chair, but he spoke from being involved in this movement for over 30 years. And he wanted to make one thing really clear, because they had just spent an hour and a half talking about public authorities. And his impression was, and what he wanted the entire body to know was, before the 1990s, the public authorities that were formed were really active. They were creative. They were innovative. They were risk takers. They were creating new avenues and new networking. But he said that the public authorities, in his observation, that were created after the 1990s had become purely administrative entities that were marginal in their efforts and marginal in their effectiveness. Now, that's the nicest thing I could think of to say about the public authority, because those wouldn't be my words. But when I thought marginal, oh, they're just on the outside. They're not really delving into the issues. They're just doing what needs to be taken care of on the margin of the problem and the program. And so, as I've said, these guys' words are gospel to me. I take what they have to say and I bring it back.
This is his observation as being a recipient of services for over 30 years, feeding back, hopefully, to all the public authorities. You need to get back to where you started, back before the 1990s, when people were trying to create new things. And to warn people that if we don't watch what's going on, it's probably just going to be marginal all the way around. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Are there any other items before the board?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I promise to be very quick this morning. This has been an interesting election year.
Do you have a name?
Yes. My name's Darrell Rusk, 101 Melcher Lane, Burson, mailing address, Valley Springs, 772-0225 or 5599972.
More information than we need.
You ask for everything.
Well, not quite. Thank you. Please proceed.
I have placed some political signs in a perfectly legal location with property owners' approval. And I have had 13 political signs taken by someone, even to the point where I put a couple of concrete blocks and put the sign bases in cement, and they took the signs. These are very innovative people. But I look at these things and I look back in history, and I think of 1804 election, which was easily the nastiest election in U.S. history. 1868 was pretty darn close, and 1912 was real close. So looking back in history, this isn't too bad. So hopefully everyone will be able to accept whatever the results are in the elections, and then next week we'll have tea together. And finally, I appreciate more all the things that each of you do in watching the campaign and watching people who really don't know what they're talking about try to minimalize what you do, and they really don't understand. You have meetings after meetings after meetings. You know, I said this before. You have so many commitments beyond what most people have any clue about. And I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russ. Are there any other comments? Like, I'm going to have to start tracking your time.
I know. Anyway, I'm Clyde from Valley Springs, and my comment mainly is for public comment. As I got up a couple weeks ago and asked about the 5-minute, 15-minute rule, and the 15-minute rule is gone. Now, public comment is the reason I usually come here. Is I'd love to watch it. I mean, you guys are putting your feet to the coals and stuff. But I find that sometimes the public abuses it. Not only do they abuse it by derogatory remarks they make to some of you, which I find not acceptable, but they also come with prepared speeches where they'll drag out for hours. Now, I could do the same thing by getting a book or something, and I guess get 30 or 40 friends here and start reading it, and it would have a message. But I would like to see something done, because there was a couple people before me that had very articulated arguments that were cut a little bit short, maybe. And I'd like to have heard the rest of it, maybe just a few minutes more. But sometimes it's really hard when you come here all the time to listen to some prearranged speech they'll drag out for over an hour. And it's the same thing, they're just basically going to hand it to this gentleman or this lady here and have them just read it. And I would like to see maybe the board do something and try to resolve some of that. Thank you.
Thank you. We are, as on the agenda, it says that the items have to be under the subject matter, the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. So if you read us white papers of some book that you're reading, I would stop you, because that has nothing to do with the jurisdiction of the board. If you want to talk about what's happening in Washington, D.C., unless it's under the jurisdiction of the board, I would ask you to refrain. Yep, you had your time, just responding to you. And so just responding. And the board is reviewing what other cities and counties do about public comment period. We don't have an answer yet on what we're going to, any changes we're going to make, if any, but we are looking at it. Is there anyone else who has an item they'd like to bring before the board? 5 minutes under the jurisdiction of the board.
Good morning. I'm Tanya Dowson, and I'm reading mine. So, 2 weeks ago, I requested that the board include in the board packet the correspondence, since the packet says that the Board of Supervisors may act on some of the correspondence. Last week, the supervisors said that they met and decided not to include the correspondence because it was just newsletters and the like. So I would like to ask that the correspondence that might be acted on be included in the board packet. And also, I just have a question. At what meeting was the decision made not to include the
There was no board meeting. I had a discussion with the clerk to the board, Karen Varney, with our CAO, Jeannie Boyce. If an item on the agenda, in the correspondence is pulled for discussion, it is pulled at the Board of Supervisors meeting. It's not pulled another time. If a board member wants a correspondence item on the agenda, it's on the agenda. But there was no meeting. It was just a decision because, as I said, all our correspondence is right here. All of it's in the clerk's office if you'd like to look at it, and you could see why we don't want to make copies of a magazine and put it on. But the board or a member of the public, which they have on rare occasions, pulled a correspondence item for discussion. But it occurs during the board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just add to that, and correct me if I'm in error here, Jim, but it's my understanding under correspondence, the board can't really take any action. That would have to come back and be agendized. What the board could do is pull it for discussion and give instruction to staff to bring it back for action at a future board meeting. So it's not like that. When it says board action, it isn't that we can take something from a list of 100 letters or something and say, oh, we're just going to act on this as though it's on the agenda. That's not.
I've never thought that this caption met the Brown Act requirements to take a formal legal action.
So you would have plenty of time then to come back if the board decided to go ahead and put it on the agenda.
Thank you for explaining that.
Also, I think that when we put board action at the end of the correspondence item, that the action that we're taking is accepting and acknowledging the correspondence, not taking action on any element of it. So there's two kinds of actions. One is to accept it, and the other, as Tom is suggesting, would be if something was pulled for further discussion, that would then become a public document and agendized.
Rosemary Wilson, McCallum Hill. I just wanted to ask a question about the correspondence, and that is, does correspondence include emails that are sent to the board?
Those are public documents.
But the correspondence items that are in our agenda do not include those.
Because I think there are occasions when emails may have been sent to each individual member of the board and do not appear on the correspondence list. And given that emails are accepted method of communicating, if not corresponding, I wonder whether there should be some revision that would enable the emails that are sent to, especially those sent to all of the members, to be on the list of correspondence. I don't know whether there's a legal definition of correspondence. It could make the list a lot longer, couldn't it?
Very, yes.
So I say you'd have to forward it. I mean, what's the difference between that and a telephone call or being stopped, at the post office and having somebody want to talk about an item that's before the board? I mean, at some point you have to just say, well, okay, we're going to limit it to what's received at the county, that's addressed to the county, or to individual board members or the board as a whole.
With respect, I think that there is, there is a sense of a paper trail or an electronic trail with electronic mail that may not exist with verbal communication. That makes it seem a little more formal.
I guess the other issue you would have is, sometimes you get emails that, you don't, people are pretty hot, and I don't know that you really want to in correspondence, and I don't think people that are sending those, are intending them to be in correspondence. They're just a personal communication. So I don't know. I mean, I like the system we have. I mean, it's like I say, how about telephone calls? How about being stopped at the post office? I mean, you just...
Well, I've already responded to that. I know we're not in a typical conversation here, but I think there are times, particularly if I would cite the Proactive Parkinson's project and Sarah Johnson following up with an email following her written request for monetary support from the Board of Supervisors. That sort of thing seems a little more formal than, a little more formal anyway.
They're all legal, anything that the Board of Supervisors receives in writing is a legal document. I think Council has said that before.
That they're all public records, but there's a different issue here. This portion of the agenda is not required by law. This is a historical practice that is developed in Calaveras County, but it's not a requirement of the Brown Act or required in any way that the correspondence be listed.
Maybe I've sowed a seed for discussion in terms of what is, how email fits in that grand scheme of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other items that you'd like to bring before the board not on the agenda? Okay, thank you. I'd like to move to item 14.
Good morning. Jim Macedo from the Sheriff's Office. I am here today requesting approval of a minute order authorizing a 3-year contract between the City of Angels Camp and the Calaveras County Sheriff, or the County of Calaveras, for dispatching services.
Are there any questions from the board? Any comments from the board? Are there any questions or comments from the public on this item?
Madam Chair, I'll move the item.
I'll second the item.
On discussion, please. Captain Macedo, the item before us has a retroactive aspect to it going back to July 1st. I don't see any discussion about the potential for any credit to the city for, have we been providing services or haven't we been providing?
We have been providing services, however, not 24-hour services. The amount you see before you is for 24-hour services. So to answer your question, we will not be back billing them, and we will not be giving them any credit. It will essentially be prorated from the date we go 24/7 forward.
Okay, so this $121,000, $121,200, that portion of the contract will be prorated to the city.
Correct. Well, from the date we determine we are going to start 24 hours, which will be relatively soon, we will start billing that amount from this month forward.
Okay.
From that date forward.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you, Captain Masiga.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Gary, did you want to start?
Do I want to start with Darrell?
Don't start.
Don't start. I have nothing to bring before the board, Madam Chair, this week. Other than I voted this morning.
Will you tell us how you voted?
And I'll tell you, when you look tonight at the returns, and they're going along the stream, along the bottom there, when it gets to governor, you're going to have, Whitman and Brown and the others. It's going to say Callaway won.
Well, thank you, Don.
So you wrote in Callaway?
Write-in candidate.
Write-in candidate. That's a first. 2.
Jeez. I thought you guys liked California.
And I have one other thing. Give blood, save a life. Valley Springs Community Blood Drive, Tuesday, November 30th. So you have about a month to pump up, to get some blood, more blood, build it up inside you, to give blood. There's 2 blood mobiles in the parking lot of the Valley Springs Fitness Center. Walk-ins are welcome, and child care is available. So you also get a T-shirt, and you're entered into a drawing for 2 rounds of golf and meals at La Contenta Golf Course. So, like to see you there. That's it.
Mr. Thomas.
They missed a good opportunity. They could have done this on Halloween and had a lot.
Had vampires drawing blood.
A bigger turnout.
There you go.
And I wanted to mention that I heard Ms. Newman talk about a power chair. I thought we only had one power chair here. This one here in the middle. So. No?
Busted.
You're busted. You're right. I think we're going to have to get a sign, Ms. Boyce. Please turn yourselves.
Clyde, turn
We used to
yourself
put
on.
it on the agenda, but some people forgot, so maybe we need to put a sign outside the door.
Okay, I have,
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, continuing on here, we'd like to occasionally mention where we're going to be attending, where other supervisors may be attending, and I'd like to ask Supervisor Toffanelli. I've got on my calendar Friday night, there's an American Legion Thanksgiving dinner.
That's correct. Yeah, I will be attending that dinner.
Okay.
Yes. My friend Hugo Skoda will be cooking.
I got a call from Hugo yesterday, and that I intend to be there as well. Okay, and but going to specifically to the correspondence aspects of what we've been talking about here, I just wanted to draw the board's attention to a letter that we all got from Gene Deaver with Motherlode Engineering, drawing our attention to what he perceives as an inconsistency between a previously issued resolution and an ordinance specifically on 40-acre splits and the way that the Subdivision Map Act allows certain things to progress without complications that we have put on. I'd like to request that we agendize some discussion about that to respond to.
I didn't receive that.
You didn't?
Yeah, it was in all.
I received it. I read it, yeah.
Jeannie didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
I wonder why.
You did. Wait a minute. Now, you need to clarify. You didn't receive it, or you didn't get it?
I don't think I received it or got it.
Okay, well,
It's in my office, and I've asked Janice Elliott to look at it when she has time, so we'll have some sort of report back to you on it.
Okay. And There's there's something that has been on my mind fairly frequently during this last, all going on 4 years, that we often have things that we come before the board and we talk about it at length, and we put it on a to-do list, and it kind of came to the forefront last week when we were talking about the disposition of all those water tenders, that we just somehow have an uncanny ability to let things fall through the cracks and not attend to them. So I would like to suggest that we make for ourselves a little, just a to-do list, and that we would have, occasionally presented to us, like the water tender issue specifically. We've gone through 3 CAOs, and it's come forward, and then we said, yeah, we're going to take care of that. And I just would submit to you that if it was in front of us each week, we might not let that happen. There's things like on the agenda that we just or the minutes that we approved of our October 12th meeting. If you'll recall, Mr. Gauze came and he talked about his concerns about the on-site wastewater issues. I don't know where that is.
I met with him, as I said I would do on board. Jeff White Brian Moss and I met with him. Spent about an hour with him and listened to his concerns and came up with some ideas.
I also met with Brian on that issue.
Okay, so that's a... Okay, in the same minutes, I highlighted where Supervisor Toffanelli had requested that all comments submitted to the city on this is on the issue of the COG Memorandum of Understanding, or the Joint Powers document, that all the comments submitted to the city be available to the board, because we didn't see those. I think that it was a valid concern. I don't think, did you ever see those, Gary?
No.
Okay. There was also a motion made directing staff to work with COG for an orderly transition of existing projects. I'd like to see that list of the transition on those projects. So
they are working on that.
Excuse me?
They are working on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess my concerns are unwarranted then. That concludes my comments for this morning, and just hope everybody gets a chance to vote. Hope I make it for another 4 years.
Good luck, Russ.
Thank you.
Mr. Walensky.
I've got today at 4 o'clock the Mental Health Advisory Board meeting. Tomorrow morning, Mother Lode Job Training Board meeting in Sonora. I have a all-day forest gathering. I'm addressing a conference of about 250 foresters and folks representing BLM, U.S. Forest Service, and everybody trying to develop a new approach to managing federal lands and public lands, in particular in California, through the Sierra.
Where is that meeting?
That's at McClellan Air Force Base. Starts at 9:30, goes till 4. All-day session with a number of different topics on the agenda. I have a first 5 commission meeting on Friday morning, and an RBEG steering committee meeting in Sonora at noon.
RBEG?
It's Rural Business Enterprise Grants. It's the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is, we're trying to have them invest in our communities.
We had some correspondence on that.
We have a community meeting in Wilseyville on Saturday, and on Monday I'm going to be out of town addressing a conference in Nevada County on mining and efforts to clean up the mines. You heard some of that discussion here, and this is a follow-up region-wide discussion happening all day up there under the Sierra Fund's invitation.
Mr. Tryon.
I do not have anything to bring before the board today, Madam Chair.
Let's wait. I forgot one thing.
Wait, don't tell me.
We had a meeting of the Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency, JPA, last week, and that was Friday down in Mariposa, and I wanted to let the board know that one of the actions taken had to do with recommending to both the Calaveras and Mariposa Boards of Supervisors a change in the Joint Powers Agreement, and that it's a simple paragraph, but it actually is the same language that's currently in the scope language of the ATCA, which is the Amador-Tuolumne Community Action Agency. The reason for this change is that the two agencies really evolve very differently, with the money being sent from the feds to ATCA being used to leverage all kinds of other funds, and the breadth of program and innovation in Amador and Tuolumne is actually exceeded by exponentially the work in our two small counties. What we're hoping to do is line our language up with ATCA, and we are doing joint work with them. They've actually done quite a bit of work on housing. Beetle Barber is known to you all, and there are other things that they do on energy in this county. But our goal is twofold. Number one, we're required to have a scope language, which was completely absent from our JPA. So this will define our scope, and consistent with the legislation that mandated that. We've somehow operated without that, and it was our own county council that noted that absence, and the board thanks you for making note of that. So following up quickly, we've got that language crafted, and it will come before this board. We like to agendize it at the earliest possible convenience. Also noted was the absence of insurance for board members and commissioners on this, and that issue was also taken care of at the last meeting. So you'll see the language, and probably good to review the whole JPA. You'll see.
Well, I think we did take action on that, but I think we were going to wait till we changed all of the language before it came to the board, I thought.
All right, well, let's see what Shelley forwards, but my understanding was she was going to be forwarding that language to the two boards before, but we'll check in on that.
So can we expect that language coming from Mariposa?
It'll come from Shelley Hance.
ATCA.
It'll come from ATCA because they are administering our agency administratively right now. That they're handling it. Oh, and one other big deal. Mary Sawicki was voted as our executive officer of the Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency, and that vote was unanimous by the Mariposa and Calaveras, reinstituting a lost alternating arrangement. The original document indicated that we would trade administrations every year.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, excuse me, and that stopped many years ago for some reason and rested with Mariposa for a long, long time. So we have now reinstituted that alternating arrangement, and Mary Sawicki is our first Calaveras executive in, I don't know, over a decade.
And that will commence on January 1st, 2011.
Is that it?
That's it.
I have Ebbets Pass Property Owners Council tomorrow, and tomorrow afternoon we have child support. That special meeting, 2:30.
Rats.
Catherine.
Yeah,
we had to do it. So we have Steve and I will be at a child support meeting.
What time is that?
2:30 in Calaveras. Calwood. I have Area 12 Agency on Aging this week, and I will be at Mr. Brophy's retirement function at Frogtown. Tom, are you going to that?
No, I don't believe so.
And I'll be going, and I have a Greater Arnold Business Association meeting on Monday. Thank you. Ms. Boyce?
Just a reminder that next week we have a study session at 1:30 on the general plan update, just a status report. So for those of you that are interested, and that's all I have today.
Mr. Jones?
Nothing for the board.
Okay, thank you.
Marita,
Yeah.
the Brophy Fair, what date and time
It's
is that?
Friday.
That's Friday.
This is Friday?
This coming Friday.
5:30, same time as the Thanksgiving dinner for the vets.
Okay. All right, that's going to be tough. And Steve, getting back to that Nevada City affair, that it says here that that's a 2-day
Yes,
event.
I'm only going to be able to attend to one because we have a board meeting on the second. I was disappointed to see them schedule it that way.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption.
That's okay. Jim, you had nothing, right? This meeting is adjourned, and we'll be going into closed session.